Hi and welcome to StateZero Talks. This is one of many videos that is going to be discussing the tech industry and the big issues that surround it. Today we're discussing, is the subject of female diversity distracting from a wider issue at play of diversity and inclusion as a whole? I'm going to pass over to Caroline to start the discussion.
I think a good starting point would be to find out what diversity and inclusion means to you guys personally.
Yeah. What does diversity and inclusion mean to me? So, if I can use an analogy.
Yeah, go for it.
So for me, diversity is buying a different fish to the fish you already have, and inclusion is providing some good water for it.
Okay, that's good.
At Makers, we talk about not trying to increase your diversity, but trying to reduce exclusivity, and in that way being more inclusive. And similar to what you said, inclusivity is about creating the systems or the framework to let diversity happen. So you shouldn't be trying to specifically hire from one group or another, which is what a lot of people do with their diversity initiatives. But you should be trying to create a process whereby people from different ethnic minorities or minorities in general feel included in the process.
Yeah, I'd echo both of those things. I think it's as much stopping exclusive practices and actually in creating an environment where people feel that they can actually belong in an organisation or belong in a culture. Mm-hmm. There's a framework which we kind of use and we've kind of stolen from various people who have also talked about it, so I'll credit that one. But a lot of people think about it like diversity, inclusion and belonging, and also to use an analogy, it's kind of like if diversity is just inviting new people into the party, so to speak, inclusion's kind of been asked to dance, and then belonging is actually being asked to suggest on music for the playlist and actually playing that music, so to speak. And actually when you feel like you have an inclusive environment in an organisation, then you start to feel like you really belong there, and actually you're able to shape and drive the culture and change, and actually it's not just about cultural fit in an organisation, it's about cultural contribution. So actually, are you actually able to contribute to the environment and the practices that sustain the environment that you're in? So taking it kind of one step beyond just inclusion, but thinking about how people belong in place.
And I think when I joined kind of working for a corporate accelerator, I worked with a lot of startups, and I just worked with a lot of male white founders, and I thought, oh my god, whereas everyone else looks like me? And I think for me, that's when I just sort of realised that there was obviously a problem, because I was in tech, I wanted to be in tech, and I was sure that there were other people like me that wanted to, but weren't obviously getting into the program that was helping accelerate their companies. And for me, that's what the accelerating factor was. But I kind of want to go back to Emma's question, which is about the discussion around female diversity and if that's overshadowing inequality in general, or the discussion about diversity as a whole. Right now we're using kind of women in tech as a spotlight to highlight the kind of incredible achievements of women. For an example, we see female success kind of stories or female success awards at a lot of events, pretty much all the events we go to now in tech. But by us doing that, are we sort of excluding women and putting them giving them a space onto the side to shine and taking them away from the main conversation? So I want to know what your take on that is, and if we could go about it a better way, or if we are going about it the right way.
I think spaces are really important.
Yeah.
And we live in a society that has really, really outdated modesty norms. And so as a woman, you're taught that in order to be successful, you need to just be quiet and get on with it, and let your work demonstrate your value and not really speak up. And I think what communities do, what communities like Foundervine do, what spaces do, is they put you in an environment with lots of people who are trying to push those boundaries. So I think there's definitely room to do it in the wider community, and there's absolutely no reason why an Excellence in Tech event can't coexist with a Women in Tech event. But I think providing women and other social and ethnic minorities with the opportunity to share a space with others, to reflect on experiences, to bring each other up, and to actually acknowledge success in a space which doesn't always, reward people, is really important. So, the short answer to that is that they can coexist, and I don't think one necessarily takes away from the other.
Yeah, definitely. And I think to that point as well, people need to be able to see, what they want to be, and like we just said, I didn't know that tech for women was an option. It wasn't so much the woman thing, but it just like wasn't available to me. And I think when you go to so many tech events and you're in the minority of women there, it's hard to feel encouraged that your success or your trajectory is on the path to success. Whereas if you're in a, as you said, a safe space where you're surrounded by women who are going through the same struggle as you, or you know, who are super successful in their careers, it kind of gives you something to believe in and aspire to. And I think general events are very bad at promoting diverse panels and all of that kind of thing. And I think that's problematic for the younger generation coming into the tech world.
You know, we're all talking about female diversity, and you're right, in some instances it's ticking a checkbox. So what can we do to make sure that this, like, us tackling diversity as an issue is including everyone? All of the wider spectrums that you've spoken about, like race, and gender binary, disabled people, over 50s, which is a big problem in tech. So what are some of the things we could do to make sure we're being inclusive to everyone, not just females?
I mean, from my perspective, if we accept, and we should, it's almost crazy to have to say it, diverse teams are better for organisations. So if that's our working assumption, and we recognise as an organisation, an industry, or whatever it is, that we have a problem with that, then it should be dealt with like a business strategy. The same way, our costs are too high, what are we going to do about it? Because more profitable businesses are better businesses for our shareholders. So it should be viewed in that very much that lens as a business strategy problem for me. And then, like any strategy, there needs to be the right people included in formulating the programs and the positions and the work that needs to be done to address the aims of the strategy. And also it needs to be resourced well, so there needs to be the people, both in talent resource and in terms of monetary resource, and in terms of working with external organisations, because not every organisation has all the answers internally. Thinking, how can we look to bring in other people, whether they be talent or organisations as well. And it needs to be a multifaceted approach. I think when you start to think of it as a strategic issue, and you start to deal with it like a strategic issue with the resources like any other strategic issue, then you'll start to see the results as it. If it's we'll appoint this one person with this one position, not empower them to do anything, and actually just expect the dial to magically move. You're setting yourself and the organisation up for failure, and ultimately you still end up with the same problems with bad retention, and ultimately these people leave. So it's got to be dealt with as a holistic business strategy problem in the same way that you deal with any other, issue that was systemic within your organisation.
Go ahead.
I feel like part of that holistic approach needs to be looking at the pipeline of talent, because I have so many conversations with senior people in organisations saying, look, we know there's a big problem, we're doing all right with gender, but let's take no idea. And then you ask them about the makeup of their leadership team, and there's something interesting about that, and you ask them about the makeup of the wider organisation, and look at that. And it's just kind of, what we're seeing is that companies know that there's a problem, they don't know how to tackle the problem, and they kind of feel that they can outsource a solution to the issue and not have it be sort of fully embedded within the organisation. So I think a great example of that is we're a company that doesn't really do well on LGBT in tech, so we're going to host an LGBT tech night at our offices and get some organisations to come and do it. However, they're not doing anything about representation of LGBT people at senior levels. They're not looking into whether the culture is actually exclusive to LGBT people. They are not looking at whether there is wording in their job adverts that actually is, without unconsciously detracting people from different social groups. And so I think the problem is complex, and it's just a bit too complex for a lot of organisations to deal with. But the reality is that ethnicity is quite an interesting one, because there's always going to be sort of roughly the same proportion of women. There are more people of LGBT sort of backgrounds that feel more comfortable coming out, but they won't sort of exponentially increase. Ethnicity, we've got a situation at the moment where I think 1 in 4 primary school children is from a BAME background. You've got 1 in 8 ethnic minority young people within universities and sort of young professionals, and then it's sort of 1 in 16 or even less than that when it comes to mid-level, and then pretty much absent at the top.
Yeah.
That's a ticking time bomb, and I think that if organisations don't do anything about it, or if they keep sort of kicking it down the road, we're going to have a situation where we've got just a massive talent crisis. We don't actually, we've got a whole generation of young people who are completely disenfranchised, and we've got a whole generation of corporates who don't have all of this brilliant, diverse talent and these perspectives in order to make their company more effective. So I think, just going back to the original question, so important that we look at all of these different challenges faced by different groups. And a huge part of doing that is going to be making sure that we have representation. I think this particular panel we're doing now is a great example of bringing someone in who comes from a particular group, who's really passionate about a particular issue, and highlighting the subject. That won't happen if everyone at the table is called Tim and lives in Rugby, and it's kind of, you know, like, so I think representation is huge.
Yeah.
Just getting people in at senior levels, you know, upskilling junior colleagues and actually getting them to a position where they can actually be senior, getting them sponsors and mentors, etc. Also investing in programs that help younger people before they even reach university actually build the skills that they'll need for these organisations one day.
I think I completely agree with you there that to see any real change, we have to, or board level needs to like have this as a priority. I think we need to hold our leaders and our CEOs like socially responsible for this. Did you have any thoughts to add to this?
Yeah, I think it just needs to be the responsibility of everyone, and not just the leadership team. Because obviously the tech needs play a massive part in that. There's, you know, needs to trickle down, but it also needs to come from the bottom up. And as you said, bringing in kind of junior people from places like Makers, it's a much more diverse pool of people. Something we see a lot of the time is, we've mentioned job adverts a few times, but most job adverts tend to describe a person and not an actual role, and that can be really dangerous. So saying something like, I want someone who has a computer science degree, you're essentially saying you want a man because only 15% of computer science grads are women. All these things that you might not realise you're doing need to become a priority, and I wonder, just to go back to like the debate at hand, and if gender diversity is kind of overshadowing other diversities, very well maybe, but I think it's dangerous to assume that women have got it and like we're fine now and we should move on, because I don't think that's the case.